If you are watching the replay, go ahead and fast forward to about 90 seconds. We will get going in about 90 seconds. Sup, Dub? And we are on Periscope. Oh, I'm loving those hearts already. You guys are the best. The best of the best. Sup, Suns fan? We are live on Twitter, live on Periscope, live on YouTube. What else do you want from us? I mean, this is about as much as we can do, I suppose. Aside from just doing a live event, maybe I wonder if we could fill the arena ourselves.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. Oh, and actually, you know what, Michael, go ahead and talk real quick. Let me turn you up. Just say
Test. Hey, how you doing?
Good. You guys, let me know, for those of you who are watching live, just tell me if you can hear Michael. Go ahead, Michael, say one more thing. Just
Hey, how you doing?
Let me know. I saw heart. Is that...
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Perfect. He said yes, sir. All right, we are good. So we'll go another about 30 to 40 seconds, and then we will start going. Sweet. Having Dub. Nice to see you again. Oh, man, I'm so excited for... This is... You know, if I could sing, I would sing, it's the most wonderful time of the year. I love this so much. And so much has happened, too. I mean, this has been not only the craziest NBA offseason, which I can't wait to hear your opinion on, excuse me, but then the Suns over the past week. Mr. Rich, I hope you can catch about 5 minutes of us, man. All right, well, we're at about 90 seconds, so welcome to Valley of the Suns Live, the weekly edition. My name is Adam H., your site editor. With me is Michael Schwartz, the founder of Valley of the Suns, the one and the only, the man in the suit. So we are here to discuss so much of this. First and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Lots to talk about.
So much so. Real quick, I want to just kind of jump off the Suns for a brief second and just go, the moment you saw that Carmelo Anthony was traded to Oklahoma City, what was your thought? I mean, that honestly, at least from my perspective, came out of nowhere.
My thought was it's still not enough to beat the Warriors, and that's kind of been my thought about everything that's happened. Dwayne Wade signs with the Cavs.
Yeah.
Again, same thing. Still not enough to beat the Warriors. It's going to be fun. It's going to make this season really interesting, but I wasn't as surprised as you, just because if that Houston deal was going to get done, it would have gotten done already. You know, they've been working on that for 2 months, and if it wasn't going to happen then, it just wasn't going to happen. And now you introduce new teams like Cleveland and Oklahoma City into the mix, and there's only so many potential permutations of a Carmelo trade just because he makes so much money. So I did figure it would happen before training camp, so I think the timing made sense. This is the time where you really couldn't bring him to media day in New York.
Yeah.
There was finally, for the first time all summer, there was a real deadline. So I wasn't terribly surprised. I'm very interested now to see what that fit's going to look like.
You know what, and people are already questioning what's that fit going to be like with Paul and James Harden. And now you add another ball-dominant wing. And, you know, it's almost, and I suppose I shouldn't say entirely, but it seems almost unprecedented to have 3 ball-dominant stars, wings in particular. And I guess that's kind of the discussion is what Oklahoma City needed was a big, and they obviously didn't get one. So it's almost unprecedented. I can't think of another team in history that's ever had this makeup, just in terms of the star power in particular. So
Well, how about Oklahoma City 4 years ago with Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, or 5 years ago, whatever it was.
Harden, that's true. I guess that's totally true. I mean, I guess I kind of look at Durant as a little less of a wing just based on his size, I suppose. So,
although I think Carmelo, he was a shooting guard his rookie year, which was ridiculous. But I think Carmelo's definitely a power forward now. Just the way the game has gone, I think he's best suited for that position. Obviously, he can be a small forward, but really, I think the answer, Carmelo is not going to like this because he laughed at the press conference when the question was posed, but I think he would be best off the bench, or at the very least stagger their minutes. So say he comes out 4 minutes into the game and then he's the guy you run your offense through when Russ is out, because that was the problem. They were terrible last year when Westbrook was out, particularly in the playoffs. They just didn't have any shot creation. So I think you have to keep one of those three guys on the floor at all times, and really I'd stagger Russ and Melo. Make sure, in particular, one of those two guys have Melo be the leader of the bench unit. But we'll see. Egos, I mean, not a lot of time to mesh.
No, not at all.
It's going to be interesting. I give Houston the edge over OKC because of that.
Yes. I agree.
Among other reasons.
Yeah. No, I don't give any Carmelo Anthony team an edge, to be honest. But
yeah.
You know, and go ahead.
Oh, I mean, they'll be good. Obviously, you know, they're a top 4 team in the West, but I don't know what their November schedule looks like offhand, but I think they're definitely going to struggle just because those guys don't know what it's like to play together, and hell, that you haven't even been able to be visualizing it or playing in the Drew League. Not that that's going to do that much, but at least, you know, Chris Paul and James Harden have had a few months to work through some things, figure it out. Mm-hmm. So I think November is going to be a real struggle for Oklahoma City. But and then the other thing about them is I think this is a 1-year run. I think they're all gone next year.
Totally agree. And their contracts set up that way, and all it would take, in my opinion, is just one to leave, and the other two are going to scatter. I mean,
right.
So yeah. No,
although I still don't know if Melo's going to want to get take the pay cut with his ETO. Maybe it ends up being a Dwayne Wade situation where he takes an $8 million pay cut just to waive him or something like that, and he goes to find a contender. But yeah. They'd have ESPN's Bobby Marks reported that they'd have a $300 million payroll with salary plus luxury tax if they were to sign Russ and Paul George to maxes. Carmelo doesn't opt out. So I mean, remember, you still have Steven Adams making $25 million a year. That's now your 4th highest paid guy. You just paid Patrick Patterson. You know, this is a really expensive roster, which is funny because they wouldn't give James Harden $464 a few years back, you know. So I just don't see there being any way that all of them stay. I'm sure they would love to keep Russell along with Carmelo for another year. I mean, obviously they'd like to keep Russ for the next 6 years, but I just don't see them being able to spend that kind of money. You know, like even Golden State, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep everyone together eventually, but certainly this market, they're not going to be paying guys, 4 guys between $25 million to $35 million a year. It's just, I just don't see any way that happens with their aversion to the luxury tax. Feels like, hey, 1 year, give it everything, try to beat the Warriors this year, and then you rebuild either with Westbrook as your star or possibly with the clean slate with really only Adams there.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. You know, and I'll just say this, the analogy that I had, and I don't even know if it's any good, but I see them as the light bulb right before it's about to die. They have this great, bright 2017-18 season, and the next year it's going to be 10 years of darkness in Oklahoma City, because if those 3 guys do scatter, they're not getting any free agents. You know, they're going to have to start on the draft, and, you know, look at the Suns. It's just so difficult to do that. You know, in their case, to do it twice in, 10 years, 15 years.
And they still owe picks. I think they owe a 2020 pick to Philly. I believe there are some protections on it. So if they're really bad, it might not move. But yeah, they're not in a position to rebuild. Obviously, the 2018 pick isn't going to be that good. So
well,
they're not in a position to do that.
No, totally agree. Just to think they had Harden, KD, and Russ. I know. Well, and Ibaka. He's kind of the long forgotten. He's the one on that roster early on that I definitely wanted the Suns to get, because I felt that, obviously, superstars aside, that Ibaka was, I mean, he used to be that kind of glue that looked like any team would be able to build around. But
oh yeah, he was a great fit with them in particular. Yeah. Okay. See, actually, looking at this now, 2018 first round pick to Minnesota, 2020 to Orlando. I think that went through Philadelphia at one point.
Yeah.
So they already are out 2 first-round picks. And granted, there's some heavy protections on these, so if they're really bad, they might not convey for quite a while or even convert into second-round picks eventually. But they are not suited for that kind of a rebuild.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that it's going to be 10 years of darkness, which it's one less team the Suns, when they finally rebuild, are going to have to compete against.
And there's a lot of teams like that.
Yeah.
When you look at the landscape, I mean, obviously you got teams like Minnesota that's on the upswing, but you know, it's
that could blow up just as quick if you think.
Sure,
about it. I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Wiggins is going to sign the extension, which, I mean, way too much money, and then you figure they're going to keep Towns for at least his next contract.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Jimmy Butler might only be there for 2 years.
Seriously, and you know, and he's the guy I wrote a few, I don't know, a month or so ago, that if there's one team, kind of young team that kind of went all in that might need to blow it up very quickly, you know, I said it could be Minnesota, and Jimmy Butler could be that guy where they go, you know what, it just wasn't the right move. And you know, at the time, I said, well, that's how the Suns should get involved to try to really find a way to get Brooklyn's pick, since it just seems like Cleveland is not. You know, they're not guaranteed to hold on to it. Obviously, they want to try to win another title with LeBron and convince him to stay. But
I'd be pretty surprised if they traded that thing.
I would too. I guess, you know, they would have to have some sort of gut feeling, in my opinion, that LeBron would potentially stay another year or two if they traded that pick for, you know, again, I use Jimmy Butler as that example to try to hold on, make another run. But I totally agree. I mean, I'd put it at maybe 10%.
I think it would have to be more than a gut feel. It would have to be more LeBron saying, "I'll stay if you do this." Oh, did I say
gut?
You know?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean like gut feeling. I mean like they needed some sort of
they need to know.
Like, need to know. So anyway, well, so training camp did start today. Media day was yesterday. Craziest thing, and I don't know if you recall this in the past, at least for the Suns. I guess I haven't seen anybody else's training camp schedules. The Suns is only 4 days, which is. I mean,
no, that's typical.
It was 4?
I mean, it's usually just a week. They'll do media day on Monday, and then you have a scrimmage on Saturday. I assume that's what the schedule is. That's what it always was when I covered it. Something roughly like that, except for the lockout year. So yeah, that's typical. And then obviously you have your preseason, which this year is condensed, and then all of a sudden the season's moved up about 10 days from when it normally starts. So
I have a feeling league-wide there's going to be some ugly basketball through November.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
You know, speaking of the lockout season, it's for I remember specifically those first, because I forget exactly how long the training camp was, but that preseason was only 2 games. If I recall, the Suns actually played Oklahoma City both games, and the first 30 games. It was a 66-game season. The first 30 games were just terrible. It was awful, and I just have this feeling because of how condensed everything is. And I know they're worried about injuries. They're obviously not worried about October record. You know, but if you miss the playoffs by 1 game, and I'm not saying the Suns in particular, but if you missed the playoffs by 1 game and you had a terrible October because it took so long to get everybody in the group, I mean, I think you can fairly look back at the early schedule now and say, well, gosh, if we had just gelled more quickly, especially with these teams like Oklahoma City, like Minnesota, like Houston, where they're throwing all these new ball, heavy pieces, and then they're expecting to win. They might not, especially if they're playing Cleveland, Golden State, and then each other fairly early on in their schedule.
And you know who that's a huge advantage for?
Golden State.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose Cleveland.
They bring back, Cleveland, I mean, I don't know about them. They've got a lot of new pieces that they need to integrate. I just mean from the standpoint that all you're doing is you're adding a shooter for a shooter with Nick Young coming in and adding Caspi.
Yeah.
So, Golden State is exactly what they are. Their stars are all the same, just swapping out a few role players. So I think that continuity is going to help them tremendously, whereas last year they were trying to figure out KD a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Golden State's going to get off to a tremendous start.
And
I mean, they were only 24-0 a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to do that per se, but between the fact that they're the best team in the league and the fact that they have that continuity, that's going to be a huge advantage if they when they play some of these teams that even Philly, like that's almost a completely new team. So many squads across the league. So I think your Toronto's, who basically just brought everyone back, Milwaukee, who should be good and is pretty much the same, Washington, teams like that will certainly have a big advantage in the early going.
Yeah,
and the Suns.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and so the Suns, they'll just be, competitive, hopefully.
Sure. Who knows what that advantage will mean, but that exactly. Continuity will certainly help Phoenix.
Precisely. Well, but there will be a couple things that will affect their, at least their early going, and the one big one is the injury to Alan Williams, which is just such a bummer. I mean, it's just, A, he's the local product. B, he's just the lovable player on that team. He literally is, Suns fans, I believe, are living their professional lives vicariously through him, just because he grew up a Suns fan and is now with their, with his favorite team. And so it just sucks so bad that he's out. But so while that does, it's probably going to hurt on some level, I'm not quite sure to what effect, especially if we're not, even healthy, expecting this roster to win a whole lot. This is fortuitous for Alex Len, who finally signed his qualifying offer. And Len could not have asked for... I'm going to kind of go sidebar very briefly. I said all summer, and I'm not, I'm not some oracle, but I said, Alex Len needed a major injury to some center somewhere in the league, and that was the only opportunity he was going to get another contract outside of Phoenix. Well, he signs his QO, or at least he agrees to it, and then, fortuitously, there goes Alan Williams. He could not have fallen into a better position for him to try to earn that first big contract, and that is having at least 6 months, if not the entire season, without Williams on the court. If he can stay healthy, he's going to have to, probably end up starting a good number of games just because of Tyson Chandler, health and rest and so forth. So, I mean, he's going to have an opportunity. If he can hold on to that, or if he can grab it at least, and then hold on to it, then, I mean, this could not have been a better situation, truthfully.
Yes and no. To me, the franchise has somewhat moved on from him. I think we saw that in the lack of commitment. I think we saw that in the fact that he, to our knowledge, I mean, clearly he didn't sign anywhere else. He clearly didn't have any substantial offers, or he would have signed them.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're going to see some more of Chris or Bender at the 5, which I do feel like to some degree is the future.
Yes.
At least getting those guys in the mix there, assuming Abamba or an Ayton aren't drafted next summer.
Yeah.
I think that Len might need a Tyson Chandler trade where it's like, okay, we really have to play you to be able to really establish himself.
Well,
one quick note on Williams and why I really feel terrible for him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've looked closely at this contract, but it was essentially a 1-year deal.
Yes, it was.
With 2 team options.
Yeah.
Next year is non-guaranteed for $5.5 million, and then a team option after that for $5.5 million.
Yeah.
So you assume the Suns will bring him back at those prices, certainly for next year, but especially if, you don't know how he'll look coming back from it.
Yeah.
You don't know who else the Suns might want to sign with that kind of money.
Yeah.
So to me, it felt like, well, first off, I'm not sure why he signed it. You feel like he could have certainly gotten a better offer elsewhere. At least getting the 2nd year guaranteed, you'd think he could have negotiated that, even if the 3rd year was a team option.
Yeah,
so,
I honestly. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I mean, this just might be it for him.
Yeah.
His son's career might be over.
Yeah.
If they end up going another way. So, good for him that he pockets the $6 million this year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this was a huge opportunity to really solidify himself as, to me, the Suns' main backup big of the future, or at least of the immediate future. And from now, who knows? Maybe Alex Len does do better, and they decide to give that money to him.
Yeah.
If he really establishes himself, shows the potential he had from being the 5th overall pick in 2013. So this injury could not have come at a worse time. This contract was not so much a breakthrough, but a series of 1-year deals.
Yeah.
So I just feel terrible for Alan Williams.
Absolutely. And, to your point in regards to maybe they want to spend their 5.5, that money on somebody else. Certainly we have to take into account that potentially Chandler is traded, Dudley maybe, Knight will absolutely be there. But
you never know.
You never know, yeah.
You could always trade him with a pick.
Yeah, I would hate that, but I agreed. TJ Warren's new contract averages 12.5. Now, I don't know if you've seen, I don't know what the yearly breakdown is.
I haven't seen that.
Okay, they might not have announced it yet. But the Suns, as of before the signing, had approximately, and I don't have that number in front of me, it was approximately $18 million under the cap for next summer.
I had it at about, around 5 or 6 now. So that makes
exactly.
sense.
So then, do you spend that 5 to 6 on Allen Williams if the roster is otherwise the same?
Well, that's including Williams.
Oh, it's 5 to 6 including Williams?
I believe so. When I was doing it earlier, yeah.
Oh, but I mean the summer of 18.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. Okay, see, I had seen something that said it was 5 to 6 with. Okay, then I'll tell you what. Maybe I didn't see it without him. Maybe I saw it with him as well. So I'm not sure, but it does kind of eat into that. So by not not upping that or taking that team option,
and granted, there's going to be a lot of moves that happen between now and then.
Yes.
I certainly think Bledsoe might be moved, Chandler might be moved.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of money that can be.
I would bet good money that some salary is moved before next summer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wanted to talk about that Warren contract. I know you as well. Yeah. You liked it.
I do. Yeah. I think he's worth it, especially in this NBA with the new salary cap numbers. I mean, the numbers that I used were for what's his name? The center that was with Cleveland that LA signed that traded to Brooklyn. Why can't the Russian?
Oh, Mozgov.
Well, I mean, now granted that one thing that people didn't seem to really understand is the summer that it jumped. I mean, teams were forced, especially those teams that had a lot of cap space. They were forced to make these ridiculous contracts just to meet cap minimums. But regardless, I mean, there are guys that are out there that are paid at these exorbitant, into the rest of society looks exorbitant, but at least in the NBA world is now kind of just the mid-range level. I mean, he's at 12.5. That's a mid-range contract, especially when a max can go so much higher. And I was afraid. Again, none of us were really aware that they were that close to signing him. I was afraid that they were going to play out this year and that he was going to get an offer in restricted free agency that they weren't going to be willing to match. And I was thinking it was going to be at least 15, just because I do expect, if healthy, I do expect him to be a legitimate and serious contributor. So we don't know exactly how it's going to work with Josh Jackson yet, but if he could be a sixth man and willing, unlike Carmelo, be willing to take on that role, he can be a strong offensive player off the bench that they'll need when they do start finally competing. I question though. Do you disagree? Is that contract maybe too much for him?
I do disagree. I don't disagree with. I think the money's fine, like you said. Okay. I mean, he basically got what Solomon Hill got with the Pelicans. However, I don't think you can compare 2016 unrestricted free agency with 2018 restricted free agency.
Yes.
As we saw this last year with so many guys, Mirotic, Plumlee ended up getting a nice little deal, but it took him a while, obviously, with what happened with Nerlens Noel having to take the qualifying offer. It's a cool market for restricted free agents. Other teams just aren't biting on guys. And when you look at the amount of stars and the lack of money available next year, I think it's going to be a real cool market for restricted free agents. So I would have been okay letting it play out, first of all, for that reason. Second of all, opportunity cost. What were we just talking about? The Suns cap sheet for next year.
Yeah.
So we don't know what options will be available. We don't know if they're going to be able to trade a Bledsoe or a Chandler and all of a sudden have $30 million available before this extension.
Yeah.
You just don't know where it's at. I would have rather. I don't feel like the number would have been that different next summer than it is now. And I would have rather had that flexibility to, I know this is absurd, chase LeBron. But, even less absurd, maybe you're chasing Boogie Cousins. Who knows? There's a lot of really good players who are going to be on the market next year. So I would have rather bank that. And then if some of those things don't work out, then maybe you move on this. So I feel like as a team, the only reason you do it is if you can avoid the Joe Johnson situation where he completely outplays it and then you lose it. And in that case, you ruined a budding Suns dynasty.
Yeah.
So that's a case where you should have locked the guy up earlier.
Yeah.
In this case, I would have preferred to wait, especially with Booker and Jackson. In theory, your 2 and 3 of the future, with guys who might be wings, in particular Doncic, in the draft, where I just don't know if there will be enough playing time available. So it's not terrible. I think 450 is certainly tradable, and eventually, you're not going to keep Bender, Chris, Jackson, Booker. You're not going to keep all of these guys. At some point, you're going to have to trade someone or move on. Warren would have been the guy I would have done before some of those guys. But I do feel like it's not bad, and it'll be a good asset going forward. So I'm okay with it. I just would have preferred to wait because I'm worried about the opportunity cost of this.
From the trade point, though, and I'm a big Warren fan, so I mean, I'm going to look at that from the Homer perspective. I will definitely have, that kind of bent on my opinion. But from the trade perspective, if he is restricted and not under contract, it does make him a little bit more difficult to sign. Whereas if he's under contract and it is a manageable 12.5, it's 12.5, but it's manageable, then it is easier to trade him. And in that situation, then maybe you can work out a sign and trade for, another player. So let's say you go after Boogie, and all of a sudden somebody else that you weren't expecting becomes available in the trade market, that's just fed up with their team, what have you. So I do think, though, that having him under contract and hopefully at one that he either outplays or plays perfectly to does make it easier to move him, and thus makes it easier to start that, that kind of superstar core build. Again, the Homer and me, being such a fan of his, I hope that he is kind of part of that future, and I do think that it's possible. And in my post this morning, I had to at least keep the trade option available, because it just makes more sense for him to be under contract from that perspective.
Especially if he outplays it. I mean, if he has a great year and he makes 12.5 look like a steal for him, then obviously they did their job.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about what you might be missing out on in unrestricted free agency. Then again, Suns probably aren't one big free agent away from competing.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, keep your assets, and it could be a Nene situation where you sign him now and then you eventually trade him for something better down the road.
I would love to know what specifically Ryan McDonough's kind of, what did his checklist say, or what have you, whatever his list might have been on, do we re-sign, do we not? I would love to know specifically what he was looking at. And obviously that would involve knowing what his plan is this coming summer. Because they might even look at a guy like Boogie, who might be the one attainable star unrestricted free agent, and even today say, we know we're not going to go after him. Which, again, and that's why I'd love to know what that checklist is because I'd love to know if Boogie or any other, star unrestricted free agents are even on their radar. It was interesting, though. I mean, just in terms of the timing, it came out of nowhere. There didn't seem to have been any public discussion of it, that, hey, we're considering this or what have you. It just kind of happened, and then, that number... so it was 4 years, $50 million. I mean, a lot of people just jumped him on $50 million, but again, in this,
12 and a half a year. That's not terrible.
Yeah, no, and again, I'll be interested to know when they release the breakdown, because that's the other thing. If it starts out, say, at like 8, and I'd have to do the math. But
that's not possible.
You might know this better.
I mean, just because of the raises, it'll be 8% raises.
Okay, see, I'm not.
That's the max. So, I mean, I don't have it right in front of me what it would be, but
so
I mean, you're looking at probably like 11. Roughly is probably the lowest it would be.
Okay, 11. All right.
11, probably even more, maybe 11 and a half. Plus. Okay. So it'll be somewhere roughly within $1 million and a half of that starting range.
You know what?
I mean, of the average annual.
Yeah. You know what? I got to play NBA 2K a little bit more, because they've added that in, and I would have maybe had seen that at one point or another.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they won't have quite as much cap space up front then.
No, yeah, you can't do it the way it might have been in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, years ago. That's already been changed
Okay.
for a while.
Okay. Gosh, I just keep looking at his stats down the T.J. Warren. That is his stats down the stretch last year. Trying to think. So it was the last 20 games, if I recall. I've got that, but I must have deleted it. His last 20 games: 17.6 points, 7.7 boards, 1 steal, 1 block, 55.9 from the field, and that's why I compared him to Cedric Ceballos. Ceballos, led the league in field goal percentage, I believe, in 93, 94. Had 8 games over that stretch of 20. Had 8 games of 20 points or more, including a 23.16 board outburst against Oklahoma City. I was just like, gosh, that's the guy. That's the guy I want, and I think that's the guy he can be. Before. Okay, so who is that? Sunsman79 said even before injury that was great. Before the injury, it was 20 points, 5 boards, 2.1 steals while shooting 47.4 from the field. And that's I believe I was the one on VODS that wrote the could he be the most improved player of the year? Okay, so here's the question. Dub said, do we play Josh at the 4 or TJ? So
real quickly, I just did some quick math.
Sure.
It looks like about 11.16 is what you could start him at.
11.16?
Or 13.83.
Okay.
So it'll be in the 11 to 12 range, most likely starting salary, unless they do go the opposite way. And like Dudley, Alan Williams even have had decreasing contracts.
Yeah.
So wouldn't be totally surprised to see that, just depending on what their plans are for next summer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the question.
Oh, yeah. No, you're good. And I hadn't thought of it going decreasing either, because if they're able to move one of those 4 big contracts in Dudley, Bledsoe, Chandler, and Knight, then and not take back any massive contracts in return, or at least maybe nothing that expires after the summer of 2018, then maybe they do go that way, and that could allow them flexibility each year to try to retain him. I'd be curious. So the question was, in a lineup, it seems just likely that they will play lineups with both he and Josh Jackson on the court at the same time.
Who, Warren and Jackson?
Yeah. So whether or not, it seems unlikely that they start, but they'll definitely, I think, be probably middle of the game kind of rotations.
It sounded like we're going to see a lot of small ball.
Yeah.
Which does make sense, especially with the Alan Williams injury.
Yeah.
And just how versatile Jackson is. I mean, you also got the hole at the 2. It feels like you've got a lot of threes on this team.
Yeah.
So
a lot of threes and not quite 4 or 5s.
Yeah. Right. So it's an interesting team roster-wise. I think you'll see a lot of positionless basketball.
You know what? And I am 100% for that. I've been wanting that for well over a year now, and I forget if I mentioned this specifically to you last time you were on. I want the Suns to try and copy the pre-Kevin Durant Golden State offense. And that's really the way I want to see it. I don't need a point guard to lead the team in assists. Now, I don't know if they have a Draymond, like, ever, even close to a Draymond or Boris Diaw or, that kind of player in, say, Dragon or certainly not Chris, but Dragon Bender or somebody else. So, I mean, obviously that's a position that every team would love to have, and so I don't know if that's possible right now. But still, I don't think this team, especially with the way it appears that Earl Watson coaches, I don't think they're set up to run a traditional offense. I don't think they have the roster to have a traditional offense, and not only offense, but say starting lineup, primary lineup. And so I would love to see a positionless team. So from that perspective, if you are just kind of keeping Booker at the 2, so you're either having Bled or Ulis playing point in this hypothetical future lineup. And then you have a lineup with Josh Jackson, TJ Warren, and it can either at that point be Chandler or Len, or even Marquise Chris for that matter. But if you've got TJ and Warren on the team, who do you think plays on the roster? In a particular lineup, who do you think plays the 3 and the 4? My gut, based on size, would be Josh Jackson, but at the 4, and then having Warren at the 3. But I do question, though.
Yeah.
You know, and then certainly it's going to kind of switch based on offense or defense, which then kind of lends to the positionless.
And again, I mean, I really don't think it matters. I think Jackson's so great because he can guard so many positions.
Yeah.
And even in my dream future lineup with Doncic, maybe you have Jackson guarding the point guards.
Oh, could you?
Because you don't really want Doncic guarding point guards, even though he can be your point guard offensively.
Yes.
And you don't want Booker guarding point guards. So, like, the key would be him being able to do that. So I think a lot of the keys for the Suns is for Jackson to be kind of that Sean Marion type defender, where if you need him to guard fours, he can guard fours. If you need him to guard point guards, he can guard point guards. If you just need him to shut down LeBron, not shut down, but guard LeBron, you put him on LeBron. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's really what they need.
I wonder, and I don't know if you heard this, and maybe it's not even entirely an accurate kind of paraphrase, but if I recall correctly, Mike D'Antoni actually said within the past couple of years that kind of his biggest regret with that roster was not having Sean Marion guard fives, that he was afraid of having Marion guard the five. And so I wonder if Jackson, and granted it's different coaching, so you know you're not going to have a direct parallel, but I do wonder if Josh Jackson could even get himself in that position to be able to guard the smaller fives. I certainly would not want him to guard Cat or Unibrow or even Boogie. There's not really too many other centers out there that scare me too much in terms of just kind of big, strong ones. But I mean, I do think generally, I mean, certainly, could he guard, a center on, Golden State or
Zaza?
Yeah, Zaza. I mean, it's like absolutely.
He could, but I don't love it from a rebounding perspective. You know, I feel like he'll pick up some fouls. But no, sure. For what you do offensively, it just depends on who the other personnel are.
Yeah.
You know, and if there's still going to be somebody who Zaza can't guard. But I mean that's not where I would look to use him per se. But I guess once in a while. I mean, I think this year should be an experimentation year. You know.
Yeah.
So why not try it at some point?
Yeah, and you know what? I hadn't even thought of it from that perspective. This really should be all about experimentation. If you are not, if you are not only tanking, and and you're not expecting to win, and you're expecting some. Oops. Oh, hold on. Oh, sorry, that was Ryan McDonough. I just put him on hold. But if you're not expecting, if you are expecting some fluctuation in the roster as well in terms of potential trades of, say, Bledsoe or Chandler, some guys that will be playing some regular minutes. Why not just experiment? Just give everything a shot. Set 10 games up. Start the season and say, for these first 10, 12 games, we're going to do this, and we're just going to do it. And no matter how poorly it fails, we're just going to run it through and give it every kind of variation and variable that we can. And then 10, 12 days later, say we're going to try this. I mean, certainly nothing like playing, say, Dragon Bender at point guard for 10 or 12 days. But I mean, doing things, or game, excuse me, but doing things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily.
But you do want to see him initiate the offense.
Huh?
But I do want to see him initiate the offense.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. I had a little hope with him. I had a lot more hope with him before Summer League, and then during Summer League, he didn't look, god awful, but he didn't kind of make the.
I thought he looked fine. I thought he looked improved.
He did look improved. I'm trying to think. There was one play I remember him making where he got the rebound. The four other offensive players just ran down court ahead of him. He came up kind of slow and methodical, and he got down the lane. He picked up some speed around the three-point line, and as he got to about the baseline, he realized he completely ran out of space, kind of popped on one leg, turned and found one guy on the arc. It's just like, oh my gosh, that was almost the ugliest play of the summer, and he barely saved it. But but the thing, in terms of maybe experimentation for kind of short spurts, I actually want to see Bender do that all season. I want that to be an 82-game experiment. Because he can be your Draymond Green, and it is Draymond now that leads Golden State in assists. Yeah. So, if the Suns can find a way to be able to mimic that offense, it could be a player like Dragon that could be that catalyst to pull it off. Well, so you mentioned the shooting guard position and the lack of depth. What is your take on Troy Daniels, now being a part of this roster?
I mean, the same thing with now you give up $3.3 million of 2018-19 cap space. I mean, he's okay as a flyer. It's a little weird that he had beef with your best player last year.
And he's the guy you get.
So I mean, I would have liked it more if it was just 1 year. I mean, it's nice to get the second-round pick, and the team certainly needs shooting. So from the Flyer standpoint, again, not bad. Maybe this guy can be a backup guard for you. There's certainly going to be opportunity for him with Reed out, and with the shooting guard position being so barren outside of Booker, not a lot of depth. So, it could be a nice, small supporting move because this team certainly needed shooting.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull it up. Do you happen to have the contract? Oh, okay.
He's got 2 years left. Next year he's at $3.258 million.
Yeah, I was trying to see though if there was an option of any kind on it.
It's just straight.
Yeah. Well, half of the NCAA program is going on probation because of Adidas. Oh, well, we don't know. Yeah. Well, and it's crazy. His 3-point shooting percentage is just outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only 5 games as rookie. Oh, no, excuse me. Only 5 games his rookie year, shot 48%. Second year, he shot 37. Then 2 years ago, 47. And the last year, 37. He's got a career average of 39.9. Is it possible that he could be a Raja Bell? I mean, granted, Raja was a starter. Troy is definitely a reserve. At least.
And he's not that kind of defender, certainly.
He's not, but you do like his attitude, I guess. I mean, I kind of like it when a player gets into another star player's face. I hated him for what he did to Booker, but that's because I'm a Suns fan. If I had seen it on ESPN, I would have laughed, had it not been with a Suns player. So, granted that, attitude and trash talking doesn't mean a great defender, but, I mean, it could mean at least a decent enough kind of attitude where maybe it can work with him. He's only 25. I mean, it's still hopefully young enough to be able to teach him a few tricks.
Yeah.
But, and then you have that shooting, and it's not like last year he didn't hardly attempt any. He averaged 5.3 attempts per game, so it's just like he was shooting them. He was jacking those bad boys up.
He fills a weakness, so it certainly doesn't hurt. See what you have, and if he is good, $3.3 million next year, not terrible.
No, and you know what? If he does have a good year of shooting, he could, to reference another old son, he could be a Quentin Richardson in 1 year, and then you kind of ship him off because somebody's else wants a 3-point shooter. But
and they needed the depth.
Yes. Oh, and that was obviously the great key for this season. They had so little without Knight, which again
it's crazy. We already have the Knight injury. We've got the Williams injury.
Reed.
And Reed, exactly. Yep, I knew I was forgetting one. So we haven't even started training camp, and you have 3 guys who are out for a good portion of the year. I mean, who knows how long it's going to be before Reed is back. Sounds like that won't be anytime soon.
Yeah.
So maybe around the All-Star break or whatever. So you just wonder if it is going to be that kind of a season.
Could be.
And I mean, you look at this West. This West is so good. It's unbelievable how good this conference is going to be. I mean, I would say, I hope this isn't a prisoner of the moment kind of thing, but I think it might be the best conference ever when you look at it from top to bottom.
I don't think so. I think you're right on point there. When was the last time, I know what happened recently, but where all 8 playoff teams in one conference went over 50? Wasn't that like...
Well, that happened the 13-14, right? The year the Suns won 48, missed the playoffs.
Imagine there very well could be a 50-win team that doesn't make the playoffs. I mean, it's plausible, barring, a team that does have a couple injuries that, maybe was expecting to win 50. Well, I mean, Utah's going to drop, presumably.
And you're right. Some team's going to get hurt. Maybe Anthony Davis is out for 2 months, and the Pelicans sink. Blake already looks like he's banged out. The Clippers could sink, certainly. If Gobert gets hurt, I think Utah is going to be pretty terrible. So, so there will be a key injury like that sinks a team.
Unless for some reason the universe just drops all those injuries on the Suns.
Yeah. No, there will be injuries. Yeah, that we know.
No, yeah, I know. And I wonder, in terms of Gobert, does Utah even have enough to make the playoffs in this West?
I don't know. They're certainly on the bubble.
Yeah.
I think Denver is terrific. I think Denver makes the playoffs.
They're going to be so much fun. And there you go. Yeah. I mean, if Denver makes the playoffs, then you drop somebody out, and it very well could be Utah.
Oh, yeah. I think I'd say Utah's probably out. But I wouldn't say that for sure. I still think the Clippers could be okay. I know some people have them out, but I think they'll at least be fighting for it.
Well,
I think Teodosic and Beverly are going to really – I mean, they're not Chris Paul, but I think that's a really nice point guard combination. I think people in this country, they're really going to love Teodosic. Are you familiar with him?
I am not.
He's a Serbian guy. He's been maybe the best player in Europe the last handful of years, certainly one of the best.
Really?
He's kind of Steve Nashian in that he's a lights-out shooter. He's maybe the best passer on the planet, and he's a god-awful defender. So in some ways, he's almost an exaggerated Nash.
Really?
He's probably a worse defender than Nash, but his passing instincts are just out of this world, and he's a knockdown shooter. So and he's been awesome. I've watched him a lot for Serbia and the Olympics and Basketball World Cup, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he was on a team that's always winning championships in Europe. So he's a guy, I mean, he's about, I think, 30, 31. So certainly not young. But what I've been saying is if you could have him just play offense and Beverly play defense, you'd have the perfect point guard. So if the Clippers can figure that one out, I think he's going to be really interesting. A lot of highlight dunks with Blake and DeAndre.
That is interesting. I don't know much about him. I mean, I don't really follow, and I don't even think I have any notifications from anybody that follows European basketball. I suppose I probably should, just because that's a good way to follow our
You'll get to know him.
Huh?
You'll get to know him.
Yeah,
I think that first Saturday of the year, second Saturday when the Suns play the Clippers.
Okay, cool. Awesome. It's so then real quick, I mean, in terms of comparing them to, say, Doncic, I mean, are they...
It's completely different.
Totally different? Okay.
Doncic is 18 years old, first of all.
Oh, how old is
and he is 6'8" and possibly still growing.
Yeah.
The passing feel is similar, but completely different. I mean, Teodosic is a veteran, whereas Doncic is a guy 18 with his trajectory could be a superstar. Teodosic isn't going to be a superstar. They'd sit him in for Team Serbia. His defense was so bad sometimes. So I don't know how he's going to stay in front of some of these NBA point guards.
Wow.
Whereas Doncic's defense was not great. He competes hard. I think he'll be at least average on that end. So, I don't think it's beyond the fact that both of them are otherworldly passers and can shoot it a little bit. I don't think it's a real comparison.
Okay.
Teodosic was a real point guard. Doncic is, 6'8".
Oh, okay. I kind of want to go back to Suns training camp.
Yeah.
Do you have any anything that you want? And again, it is only 4 days, and then that black and white scrimmage. But do you have anything that you kind of want to see come out of it? I mean, is there any roster permutations, any particular lineups, or just you want to see Dragon Bender drain a ton of threes?
That's really it. I mean, for me, it's all the young guys. The biggest one to me, because I think it's the biggest question mark and perhaps the biggest element that can determine their trajectory is, I want to see major improvement out of Bender.
Oh.
You know, I absolutely want to see him draining the threes. Even more so, I want to see him playmaking. I want to see him being that disruptive Swiss Army knife defender that we all thought he would be. I want to see him be a lot more confident than he was last year.
Confidence is key.
Chris, I want to see, you know, he kind of had a sluggish summer league. It looked like the weight that he put on dragged him down a little bit.
It looked like it was the wrong weight.
What?
It looked like it was the wrong weight.
It did. It really did. I'd like to see that have been an aberration.
Yes.
So,
agreed.
You know, I'm not gonna fault the guy for anything we see in summer league because you know that it's still that's right in the middle or even beginning of your summer. But I'd like to see him have that same explosiveness, and I'd like to see that be the aberration. You know, you'd like to see Booker take the next step with whatever that means, certainly with his playmaking. You'd like to see, I've heard Josh Jackson's just been an absolute dog in practice.
Nice.
Just completely shutting guys down. I'd like him, and, you know, we heard McDonough say that he's even better than they thought he'd be. So, you know, those four guys, to me, the core timeline guys, you know, for me, it's all about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really pretty much all I care about.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could throw Ulyss in there, maybe throw TJ Warren in there, but I guess those kind of things are certainly what's most important to me.
Bender is key, I think. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think we see, or we saw last year what Chris can be. The question is less will he get there and just more how long it takes.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, from that perspective, I just think that Bender, he lowered the bar, and you know what, I say that
not to me. I think like the guy was the youngest player in the NBA. You know, the contrast from playing for Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
You know, it's what you expected. Like maybe you expected to be a little bit better, but I'm throwing that thing out. But if you have 2 years like that, that's tough to throw out.
Yeah, and I say that. I mean, and it's totally unfair of me to say that, but I mean, I have to imagine even the team expected him to average more than 3 points, you know, a game. And again, I 100% agree. And we just had a post the other day, you know, Bender is not a bust, and you know, I got a tweet back that said,
not at all.
He's a bust until proven otherwise, and it's like that's just not fair. I mean, he deserves not only the benefit of the doubt, he deserves time to develop. And unfortunately, when you are drafting an 18-year-old European kid, especially one who, unlike, you know, Dunkirk, he's going to come in. It's like he's going to know his role immediately. I don't think Dragon Bender knows his role because I don't even know if the Suns know what his role eventually will become. So it's more along. I feel like last year was more of just kind of, hey, get your feet wet, welcome to America.
Yeah.
At the same time, again, his averages just were so low. I think it caught a lot of fans off guard. But if he can shoot the three, even if he averaged, and if I recall, I wrote a post about my projection of him. I want to say I pretty much just kind of doubled everything. It was, you know, just, hey, average, you know, 6 points and 4 boards kind of thing. For me, though, it is just about his shooting. You know, even if he only attempts 2 a game, you'd better make 1, you know. And, you know, if you're attempting 5, I want to see 2 to 3, you know, 3, honestly, on the higher end. So it's really just, you know, how well does he shoot, especially from the outside, that's key. And we already saw his tenacity on defense. We already saw that he understands the defensive side of the ball probably much more fluently than he understands the offensive side so far. And then his passing wasn't that bad when they gave him some space to work with and when guys were moving when he had the ball. But you know, it's just that shooting. He can't average 23%. If I could be a little off, but it was something like 27% from 3. You can't do that twice in a row.
No.
When that's kind of your expectation is, hey, drain some threes.
And he's got a nice stroke. You know, a little flat shot.
Yes.
I feel like it'll come. You know, I think he's a guy with such a high basketball IQ and such a great feel for the game that I'm willing to give him a lot of chances. And I was disappointed when you heard his name in the Kyrie rumors.
Oh, absolutely.
But, yeah, you put up 2 years in a row like that when you've had now a full year where you've been here, a full summer, really 2 summers. you need to start to see, even if it's, I don't really care about the numbers this year, but you just want to see him looking like a competent NBA player a little bit more.
Yeah. And there's plenty of, of comps of guys that have started out really slow. I mean, Jimmy Butler, for instance, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think there was a third that was recent. I can't think of that one off the top of my head. But, I mean, I'm not saying that he needs to be
and he's not. I don't think he's those guys, certainly.
No.
But I still think he's the elite role player.
Yes. And you know what? I mean, again, Boris Diaw got us.
Yeah.
I mean, if it weren't for him, the year that Stoudemire went down, so it would have been 05, 06. If it weren't for him in 06, they don't make the conference final. They might not even make the playoffs. I mean, that team.
Oh, they would have made the playoffs.
Well, okay, you're right. That was an overstatement.
That was Marion going for 20 and 10.
Yeah, and that was also Nash's second MVP. You're right.
Boris
do recall,
was key.
Though, this is semantics. I do recall, though, there was talk, though, when that happened, if that team would struggle significantly, and it was Diaw that really, became the binding force. What were we saying? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So it is Bender that I'm definitely most concerned about in training camp. One more thing, we got about 5 minutes before we hit overtime. Anthony Bennett, does he ever wear a Phoenix Suns uniform?
I think so. Just with all the injuries that we've seen already, I think it'll happen. Again, just like what we talk about, this is a year to experiment.
Yeah.
So you've got a guy with a tremendous amount of talent. There's a reason he was picked number 1 overall. There's also several reasons why he's washed out of the league.
Yeah.
So, have him under Triano, go play for the Naz Suns, as I like to call them. And see what you got. I don't really expect him to be a contributor eventually, but I would certainly bet that we'll see some time, and you really never know.
Yeah, I have so little expectation from him, and I suppose it's probably the best point of view to have. If you expect him to come in and for some reason score 20 points a game, you're crazy. I don't even expect, even if he were to get 30 games into average 5, but I do wonder, though, if he really ever plays, unless there is an injury to Chris, really. I suppose, or Bender as well, but I mean, it's like, from that point, you kind of have so many flex guys that if you are going to do the whole positionless, thing, then you hypothetically could play enough Josh Jackson, TJ Warren, and the like to be able to get you through. The fact that he couldn't. Oh, shoot, hold on. Are we still going here? Okay, sorry. The fact that he couldn't cut it with the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
That's, I suppose, here's your sign.
Sometimes guys need time, though. Like, I was watching this Eurobasket, going back to that, and guess who was one of Slovenia's best players? Anthony Randolph.
Oh, I was not going to guess
the former draft bust with all the potential.
Yeah.
And he looks like an NBA player. He's a guy he's a big who can shoot it. He can get to the basket. He even looked like he protected the rim a little bit. Mm-hmm. He looked like a perfect player for today's NBA. And he washed out from a ton of teams, a ton of bad teams. So I feel like, the talent is still there to some degree. Maybe he gets it at some point.
That would be awesome. I mean, does that really ever happen with the Suns, where maybe he gets it? And I guess maybe. I mean, going back to Boris Diaw, it seems. But I mean, that was probably more system. But it just that would be fantastic. It just doesn't seem to happen to us. In terms of Bennett, though, and if he gets it, has there ever been any doubt about his drive? Does he have a personality? Maybe it's like he's not reaching his max potential because it's not all there between the years.
Could be. I mean, I really don't know a ton about why it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
But hey, he's in the right place to do it. Obviously, he's been with Triano, some Team Canada type of stuff. Yeah. I know he played in that, like the Pan Am games. I think he was one of their guys. So it's worth the flyer.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I was not disappointed at all when they did that. I kind of chuckled because it was just like, all right, well, give, you know, if not us, then who, I suppose.
Right.
So yeah, no, I really will question if he ever gets any time on the court, but I would be pleased to see him on the roster at some point, and I would be pleasantly surprised if he finished the season with them. Just in terms of, you know, having the opportunity and then being able to stick to it, you know, being able to be enough, you know, put forth enough statistically to just warrant just remaining here till the end, to get on the team photo, I guess, would be cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're at about an hour. I did get one other question earlier that I wanted to ask you. Devin Booker will undoubtedly get the max on his first contract, correct? I mean, is that assumed, especially if he's able to average over 23 points, you know, the next, what would it be? He would need, it's 2 more years before he gets that option, but I mean.
Well, no, he could sign it. Next summer is when the Suns can offer it. It would go into effect in 2 summers.
You're right. It'd be the same as TJ Warren right now.
Correct.
We expect him to be offered the max, though.
I don't know.
No?
I mean, I'm still of the opinion that there's not a reason to do it that early. You know, like why wouldn't you wait? The first obvious reason, although this has been somewhat mitigated, is you can keep a cap hold on a guy. So instead of having his actual number on the books, so you can spend up to the cap and then go over the cap with the contract. The Spurs did that masterfully with Kawhi Leonard, and they've since increased the cap holds for rookies. For example, Joel Embiid's is going to be $18 million next year, so that's a lot more than they used to be.
Yeah.
So there's no rush, and if you're just going to give him the max anyways, nobody can match it. You know he's going to do it. Why not see if, I mean, who knows what might happen during the season? I mean, you don't want to think he'll regress. You certainly hope there's no injury, but obviously things could happen. And I just feel like it's always better to keep your options open, unless it's a, you know, Anthony Davis, when you feel like he's already one of the top 5 to 10 players in the league. You do what they did. You offer it July 1st at midnight, and you just get it done.
Yeah.
But with Booker, who, you know, I love him, but, you know, he's certainly not an Anthony Davis type. So to me, I don't see any reason why you would do it. I feel like whatever it's going to be, over $30 million a year, isn't necessarily worth it. I get that you have to do it and that it'll probably will happen eventually, but I would wait. Unless he's willing to sign for less. I mean, like, Giannis signed for 4 years, $100 million, which is not the max. Same with Rudy Gobert. I certainly don't think he's better than those guys. So if he's willing to do a smaller deal, you know, and it's not that much smaller, if he's willing to give back even a little bit, maybe the Suns do a 4-year deal instead of a 5-year deal in return, that I would be open to. But I would not do a full 5-year. There's no reason to, because you can put that offer on the table the next year without losing anything.
Yeah.
So unless you're gaining something from it, I mean, I get the good PR and I get he's our guy, blah, 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 but I don't think it makes business sense to do it. So I would wait until he's a restricted free agent before doing that.
Well, Michael, you make me and all of the Valley of the Suns a lot smarter. It's a pleasure having you on. You are the man. I thoroughly enjoy talking Suns with you. NBA in general. I mean, your wealth of knowledge is unparalleled. I do actually have one question. If you're willing to
sure.
share that, do you, in terms of Eurobasket, do you have anybody that you know reports on and you know on Eurobasketball with, you know, any efficiency on Twitter that you'd be able to just kind of shout out? I would love to follow some guys because
I mean, Eurobasket, I mean, that's a little different. That's the summer tournament with all of the national teams.
Okay.
My guy, former Valley of the Suns guy, Mike Schmitz, was actually there I think he's at Mike_Schmitz.
Okay.
Was in Finland, I think it was Finland, for the first round and did some great stories for us on ESPN.com. I know he's going to be traveling overseas a little bit. I actually just saw him last week with a little Valley of the Suns reunion. So nice. He's great for any kind of scouting, and certainly he's all over the Doncic story.
Is he Draft Express?
Yes. Oh, he's. Draft Express is now a part of ESPN.
Now ESPN, yeah. Really?
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we brought those guys on just a few months ago.
Oh, no, I knew that. I didn't know that Mike started out as Valley of the Suns.
Yes, he was my guy. He was my right-hand man for a while.
Wow, that's really cool.
So, he used to, all those breakdown videos were first on Valley of the Suns, which was really cool. And they were really awesome back then, too. So it's cool to see that platform and that now he's here at ESPN. So he's great for any scouting. I'm blank. I know there's.
Okay, well, I totally already follow him. I had no idea though that the Valley of the Suns connection. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, he's an alum. That's how he got his start in the world as well. So
nice.
Definitely proud of him there, and he's the guy for any kind of draft breakdown stuff. He knows his stuff on all the prospects, and he showed me the Draft Express database is just incredible. The wealth of knowledge that they have on any league, the amount of stats that you can
sift through,
for really any league in the world, pretty much.
Wow,
it's unbelievable.
That is the life. That gig it just sounds so cool, and I watch his stuff all the time. I mean, it's done so fluidly and totally formally. I mean, he's
what got us through the 2011 lockout in Valley of the Suns. Let me tell you, content was barren for the between July and late November when they finally signed it. We still tried to have 2 or 3 posts every week, and he would do. I think he did a breakdown video of every single player on that year's team. That was great content when literally nothing was going on, and then I would write a post saying, "Yep, still nothing's going on. We'll check back next week. Hopefully we'll have an update."
We'll see you later. Yeah, wow, that is really neat.
But yeah, I mean, from talking to Schmitz, Doncic is by far the best prospect in Europe this year that we should be following. There's not another. I mean, there's obviously still other good prospects, but there's no one who's going to be a top of the draft type of guy. So Sergio Llull, who's a staple of the Spanish national team, tore his ACL. They both played for Real Madrid, as well as Anthony Randolph and Doncic. So Doncic is probably at 18, soon to be 19 years old, going to get a chance to kind of be the man on one of the best teams in Europe. So that'll be really interesting to see what he can do in that role.
Yeah. Well, I'm on board with Doncic as well as you are. I have long kind of been anti drafting a point guard high, unless he is absolutely the best player available. I don't
know if he's a point guard.
What is?
I mean, again, he's 6'8", so I think he's got point guard skills. I don't think defending point guards. I think if you put him on Russell Westbrook, that's not going to be a good idea. So, and even your smaller guy like Chris Paul, I don't think he would do so well again. So I think defensively, he's probably a 3. Yeah. Offensively, he could be your point guard, though, and you can run your offense. And if you have a team with Booker and Jackson and Bender, where a lot of movement and guys you can kind of create on their own as well with Doncic, I think that would work offensively. You just need somebody to guard a point guard. So again, is that Jackson? I don't think it's Booker.
I hope it can be. I hope Booker.
I mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
But Booker's not guarding Westbrook.
No, probably not even in his prime defensive ability. Probably not.
I guess nobody's guarding Westbrook, but
just build a wall.
Sure.
I didn't even mean anything by that other than just get in his way is all. So I'll extend. We'll just go to a little brief overtime. So Ayton Bamba, I've kind of been thinking that the Suns really should probably draft a center first. Again, I am all for Doncic just because of the hype and his potential. But my kind of fear about drafting a point guard, and granted, he is going to be an absolutely, totally non-traditional one. I just think drafting a center would be ideal if you get one. If you got one that projects to be a star. If you can find a Karl Anthony kind of parallel. I mean, at least playing in that arena of talent and size. But Doncic, though, I mean, it's just he just seems, he's got that offensive at least. He's just got that kind of perfect combination of passing and shooting with his size. I mean, because at the same time, could Westbrook guard him? At least, man to man. I mean, you got to assume he can put a body on him. But as soon as a guy with Doncic's height gets some space, he's going to get a shot up over your average traditional point guard.
Sure.
So,
and I mean, really, I don't think you can go wrong with any of that top five. I mean, then Porter and Bagley, of course, too.
Yeah.
Something Bagley would be the absolute perfect guy for the Suns. Yeah. So I think any one of those five guys, I would be thrilled to have. And we'll see this college season. It will be really interesting. I don't know if you saw a picture of Ayton's vertical, but I mean that guy can pretty much jump over the backboard.
We just had a commenter say 43.5 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
That is...
Yep. Unbelievable. I mean, how far above the rim he got in the photo that was recently taken.
Sounds Sean Kemp-esque.
So, I mean, when you combine that, he can shoot threes, he can block shots. With him, the question's the motor. And if you can get that working, he's incredible. Then I've heard some people say Bamba's the best guy, a 7'9" wingspan. He apparently can shoot threes, and he's an incredible shot blocker.
Yeah.
And then right now, Porter and Bagley are seen as maybe the top two. So, Bagley. So we'll see a lot. We'll learn a lot this college season. But yeah, with those top five, you just want those losses to pile up.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, we went into double overtime. This has been a fantastic hour and hour plus. We talked about so much. I am so excited for this to start, for games to start, preseason even. I get excited for preseason every sport, because it's at least seeing those guys and those unis on that court. And so there's just so much to look forward to. Even if wins are not, if we have no wins to look forward to, we still have a lot in terms of growth to be able to make every night worth watching.
Oh yeah.
And hell, maybe Booker can score 70 again. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe 80.
Yeah, maybe. Why not? I mean,
if he only started trying in the second half,
literally,
if he just went for it from the start.
Yeah, and if you're gonna lose anyway, just so yeah, there's gonna be so much to talk about coming up so quick, and just let's all hope and pray there's no more injuries. I mean, just to lose 3 guys that early, that just doesn't happen that often. I mean,
before training camp, that's weird.
Yeah, it's super weird. So anyway, well, Michael, thank you very much for coming on. I will absolutely have to have you on again here very soon. Anybody? Well, I was going to usually do rapid fire, but we went over about 15 minutes, so that's perfectly fine. So for that, we will end this show right here. This has been Valley of the Suns Live, the weekly edition. We'll be back at a regularly scheduled time next Monday at 6 p.m.